All right, this video is going to talk about the intelligence portion of the stat revamp. Now, one of the things is they wanted to bring warriors and rangers up to mage power, so mages were never going to get vertical power. So the idea needed to be very situational, and so there were some players that came up with something uh, that has now been called Wallbreaker. And Wallbreaker was one of the major debatable sticking points because the original uh, the original numbers would make it not work above 90% resistance, while harm element targets the player on their harm resistance, but it gets an always useful penalty, so the damage is average of 90%. So the argument was, we'll just use just use harm instead of having this wall breaker mechanic. And so there was a lot of back and forth. And so at the end of the day, um, there were um, a lot of arguments made. They ended up revising the actual formula and moving it up to 100. So focusing on the highlighted portion here, it's called Wallbreaker. Spells receive a bonus when hitting an element below 100 resistance. This equals 2% damage. So this is um, actually directly affecting the resistance. So like if you actually hit a resistance, it's not just a damage boost, it's literally changing the resistance. That's how freeze status effects work. It's actually changing the resistance. So um, that's what it's doing here. They're saying that the effects depend on the monster's resistance. So like damage or scaling effects, like it does X power versus 100%, and it gets weaker as you go down. It gets more powerful as you go up. Usually won't respect this, though they probably should. So that may be an indication that Wallbreaker could change to allow for scaling statuses to affect this, because staff notes here that they probably should. And there's no words, there's no verbiage, there's nothing available to really showcase anything that's sort of worthwhile. But it just know that you get a boost versus anything under 100. So we have fire at 70%. I'll cast this fire spell here, and it's just going to do more damage. I will show a conversion chart so that people can understand how much more damage that you'll do versus certain elements. Keep in mind, it's actually changing the element. So basically, the further towards 0 you go, the higher the percentage. But there's going to be a certain point in which just use harm, and then you'll see a couple breakpoints that it's referencing versus harm. And so when it says just use like 132 over 109, that's multi-element. When it says the comment about Ellie comp, that means that that's where roughly where Ellie comp's different from armor to armor, but that's roughly where Ellie comp will begin to outperform harm. However, that could be dependent on this specific armor and whatnot. But as far as the battle log goes, there's nothing here that really indicates what's happened. Let's see. So there's nothing that says, hey, Wallbreaker's in effect. It's just a damage bonus. So you're not really going to feel it. You're just going to know that you're going to get more damage versus sub 100% resistance. And really, that's it for Mage backslash intelligence. Again, one of the goals is to bring everyone else up to Mage power, so they couldn't get anything that would be like always useful, always vertical power, stuff like that.